us begin. Good morning. Let's begin. Welcome to Mountain Community Mennonite Church, and welcome to people on Zoom and later on YouTube. Let's have a time of quieting. I read this week that there was someone who moved from the States to Finland, and their biggest adjustment was adjusting to the quiet from the U.S. Follow with me the call to the worship. I will read one and you read many. Listen to me, O coastlands. Pay attention, you people from far away. God called us before we were born. We were named by God while in our mother's womb. God made our mouths like sharp swords. In the shadow of God's hand, we were hidden. God made us a polished arrow. In God's quiver, we were hidden away. I will give you as a light to the nations, that my salvation may reach to the end of the earth. Kings shall see and stand up. Princes shall prostrate themselves because of God, who is faithful, the Holy One has chosen you. For our opening prayer, I'm going to be reading from a book that I mentioned before, Sharon Baker gave me before she left, Words for Worship. And I changed a few things with it and kind of edited it. The path that lies before us is not an easy one. To reach the place of new life, we must first wander through the wilderness. Solemn and attentive, we go out on our Lenten travels. Yet our journey is not solitary. We go in the company of the Great Spirit, following in his path, for it is our way home. Opening hymn, please turn to to hymn number 611, Lift Every Voice and Sing.
Dennis has graciously consented to lead this because I can't sing and play it at the same time. So I'm going to play, and I'm going to do a little introduction, musical introduction before we start singing. And just another note, we are not going to have communion today because I thought it would be nice to have communion with Melissa next week. And I will also be here. So we'll do communion next week. But yes, and this is Lift Every Voice and Sing, as you may know, is considered the Black national anthem, so to speak, informally. And so for Martin Luther King Jr. weekend, that's why we're singing this. to seminary with James Logan, who is now a professor in Earlham College, I think. Anyway, he grew up in the Bronx, African American, and we became good friends because we played jazz together. He was a great saxophone player. And then later on, when I became a pastor in Lancaster, he and his wife came to our church, attended there for a while. And so then we played some more together, and he was the one that told me I had to learn that song. So way back in, I think, I would say 89 or so, I got this version of it. I don't even know where I got it from anymore, and learned it, and I have used it a lot over the years, so I was really grateful that he told me I had to learn it. So I thought, okay, James. Okay, now I am unmuted, in case the sound room is wondering why I was muted there. All right. What do we have for prayer today? What do we have? Did you see my little note that I sent out with the email that we don't do prayer as an empty ritual. We do it as a way to offer an act of love. And that's how it is for me. What would we like to do as we enter into the circle of God's love? I think go ahead, yeah.
Marilyn is back home, feeling better, but still has a cough. So I'm glad for that. Unfortunately, this week was a rough week for me in that my friend Denise died.
Yes.
It was a tough week, and Ray was there to help me and be with me as we said our goodbyes to her. Yeah. We don't know any of the details about funeral or anything like that, but she did die on Thursday.
Yeah. How did you guys meet? How did you meet Denise?
Me driving her to appointments.
Oh, okay. Was that like she just knew you were a driver, or you?
Just randomly,
Okay.
her name was there to pick, as far as a ride, and we started that friendship way back 6 years ago.
Wow. Wow. That's really wonderful you had that. I'm sorry for your loss. Yeah. We had a good trip to Topeka. Connie and Carol and I went, except for a flat tire in our car right when we were starting out in the middle of the snowstorm here in Denver. But we got it repaired really quickly, and then we switched out cars, so we ended up taking Connie and John's minivan, which was nice. But we saw our relatives, and it was a very good time of gathering.
Good morning.
Morning.
I think I shared with you about my son wanted to move back to Colorado. He had an interview with a company that will grant him to be 100% remote worker. So he's waiting for a second interview, which means that if that goes through, he might be coming in June or July. Hopefully July, after the World Cup. So just pray for that, because they're really anxious about coming because they need support with the grandsons, and so we don't mind, but it's at the same time, just pray for wisdom for them and for us as to how much we can commit to having 3 grandsons in less than 4 miles.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to exercise your grandparent muscles.
So there we go.
We will remember them. All right, let's join together in prayer. Spirit of life, we are so grateful to be able to gather today with our friends and to be able to create this moment of reflection and peace and love together. Pray that we can have a good time as we gather and that we can go from here encouraged. I want to especially remember Marilyn Brenneman as she continues to recover. Give her strength of body, and also be with Roz as she continues on her pathway. And we are especially mindful of Barb with the loss of her good friend Denise. Grateful for the life of Denise and for that friendship, and want to remember Barb and others who are missing Denise right now. And grateful for our trip to Topeka, Kansas, for our memorial service. Glad to be able to celebrate such a wonderful legacy of aunts and uncles in that place. And we remember Wilmer and his son and this possibility of a move to Colorado. Pray that there can be wisdom and good decision-making as this moves forward. Thank you again for the day. We thank you for the beauty of the day and for all the gifts that you pour into our lives hour by hour. Pray in the Spirit of Christ. Amen. And let's continue singing. And this is also an African-American song. This is one of my favorite ones that I didn't know about until it showed up in the Purple Hymnal. But There Is More Love Somewhere. And what is our number? Where are we here? Oh, did I skip a couple of steps? Oh, we need offering. Well, okay. Yeah. All right, sorry.
It is time for our offering, and I'm going to read a prayer. Money, O God, has the power to capture our hearts, to raise our anxiety, and to make us hungry for more and more. And so we bring you our money as an act of worship. Release us from the seductive power of this false god. Free us to generosity. With these gifts, we declare a love for all. Bring your gifts, if you would, to the basket. Thank you, Vern. I wanted to draw your attention again to this painting, because this will be the last Sunday that we have this up this year. I don't know if you've ever noticed, Jesus, the baby Jesus, is holding a small cross. And I thought that was so curious, and so I talked to Jim Swansky about that, because he painted this, as well as the one in the back. And he did a little research and learned that this was kind of a thing with, I think, Renaissance paintings. They would have, with the Madonna and Child, they would have Jesus holding a cross. And I think it's so ironic. He's a baby, he's a child, recently born, and he's holding a cross, which he eventually dies. I thought this was very interesting. Now follow with me the prayer of transformation and new life. Redeemer, granter of free will, helps us to stay encouraged to exercise our free will to cause heaven to exist on the earth. We confess that we often miss the bigger picture while staring at the snapshot of our lives. You have equipped us to see each other's suffering and remedy it. In doing so, we transform how we live and where we live. Amen.
Amen. Okay, now let's sing There Is More Love Somewhere, and stand as you are able. There is more love somewhere. There is more love somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more love somewhere. There is more hope somewhere. There is more hope somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more hope somewhere. There is more light somewhere. There is more peace somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more peace somewhere. There is more joy somewhere. There is more joy somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more joy somewhere.
The scripture reading this morning is it's a little longer than what's noted in the bulletin. It's Luke 4:18 through 21. The Spirit of the Lord is on me because he has anointed me to preach good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim freedom for the prisoners and recovery of sight for the blind, to release the oppressed, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor. Then he rolled up the scroll, gave it back to the attendant, and sat down. The eyes of everyone in the synagogue were fastened on him, and he began by saying to them, "Today this scripture is fulfilled in your hearing."
Thank you, Dennis. Just want to note, if you have looked at my manuscripts at all on my blog, you will have seen that I put additional reading suggestions on my sermons now. So I could just mention what they are here too. The only one that I'm putting up for today as additional reading is Ed Friedman's book, Generation to Generation. So that's just a possible additional enrichment. And of course, I always recommend looking at commentaries when you're reading the Bible. I don't know if your women's Bible study uses commentaries or not, but I find it just really interesting and helpful to have those as resources as well. So I'm always looking at those. Okay, well, my rabbi, family systems teacher, Ed Friedman, as you know, used to tell us anyone can take a position or an opinion by themselves. Real leadership is having a position or an opinion while at the same time being well connected or present within a group of people. I think you can feel the difference there. It's like, I can think whatever I want in the safety of my living room, but what if I'm with a group of people? How do I present myself? And this is exactly what we see in Jesus' astonishing declaration in the synagogue in Nazareth. And the scene that we have reported to us in Luke 4 is an extraordinarily thick relational scenario for Jesus, as you may know. Just before our passage, Luke writes that Jesus returned to Galilee. So he's coming back to this region of familiarity. And he came to Nazareth where he had been brought up. So he's going back to his hometown, to his people, to people who have layered knowledge of him. We just went back to Topeka, as I mentioned, for our beloved aunt's memorial service last weekend. And it is a very distinct experience to be among one's old people, among the people that have known you since you were a very annoying or precious toddler, depending, depends on the perspective. It often feels deeply blessed to go back to one's people, to be among one's people. And we all know, probably, that you can push each other's buttons so fast it makes your head spin. Because we know the buttons, we know where they are. All without even necessarily meaning to do it, at least not always. Ed Friedman used to say, a lot of what we do faster than the speed of thought. So that's pretty fast. It's not hard to imagine then that in Jesus' story, there would be an impulse to throw someone off the brow of the hill, which is what happens after our reading. So before our reading, we have Jesus walking into the place of familiarity. Jesus makes this astonishing declaration there, and the next thing you know, they're trying to throw him off the brow of the hill. The crowd is. Well, crowds are always a problem. Think about this crowd, though. It probably had a few of his relatives in there, a couple of cousins, second cousins, uncles and aunts, throwing you off the brow. I was glad that Topeka is flat, so, there's no brow of the hill to throw you off. Or, again, it is possible to feel deeply blessed by that experience, like you can in few places, because these people feel like the root system and the trunk of your family tree. And so there's a deep sense of resource and belonging and connection that is just different than anything else. And I can imagine that Jesus felt that also and was looking for that in Nazareth. This is his people. In any case, you can feel the force of deep familial connections, for better or worse. It's sometimes very difficult, and sometimes it's wonderful. And you know that somehow you have to figure out how to respond to it. We have to figure out how to respond to our families. We have no choice. Robert Frost has the famous poem that family is the place where you go, where you know they have to take you in. I don't know if you remember that poem at all. But family is also the place you have to go where you know you have to figure out how to respond to them. And that can be quite a complex thing. There are a lot of different angles to it. And it certainly is a lifetime project. Well, that's all good family systems stuff. Jesus got the full load of that in our story for today. He gave his best sense of his self. good news for the poor, release of the captives, sight to the blind. Amazing stuff. What may have gotten him in trouble was declaring the year of the Lord's favor, using the old Hebrew language of the Jubilee year. Do you know about the Jubilee year and the year of the Lord's favor? It was a year when property was returned and there was a lot of restorative kind of activity that was supposed to take place among the people of Israel. This was centuries old language that Jesus was employing here. But he said, this is the year of the Lord's favor. An astonishing claim. And you can imagine all of his relatives going, what? Who is this guy? Who does he think he is? Anyway, the immediate response, and then, of course, to the brow of the hill to throw him off. Somehow Jesus managed to walk back out of that. Don't know how, but he did. Never trust a crowd that has gotten righteous, is what I would say. Never trust a righteous crowd. That is a dangerous thing. Even our relatives can get caught up in it. Even we can get caught up in it. I've been caught up in situations where I find myself saying things and agreeing to stuff, and I think, wait a minute, I'm not sure that that's actually what I want to say. That's not how I want to represent myself. But I find myself caught up in the force of the crowd of the moment at the time. This is why I'm very cautious about joining public marches. I think some are really good, and I have done a lot of public marching in my days. But if the message is we're right and you're wrong, I think trouble is brewing. If we're right and you're wrong, if that's the basic message. Of course, if we're marching to say something like, I love everybody, as the marchers on the Edmund Pettus Bridge sang, that was one of the songs they sang. In fact, I want to sing it for you. You can sing along if you want. Oh, I love everybody. I love everybody. I love everybody in my soul. Well, I love everybody. Yeah, I love everybody. I love everybody in my soul. I feel a fire a-burning, feel a fire a-burning, feel a fire burning in my soul. Well, I feel a fire burning, I feel that fire burning, feel a fire burning in my soul. So, and there are many verses, and you can add all you want. Another verse says, I know too much about it, you can't make me doubt it. You know, all of these, and in a good marching song, you can just start supplying your verses, you know, and that's what they did. I learned about this from the interview that Michelle, what's her name? The author, Michelle, oh brother, lost her name. Anyway, she interviewed Ruby Sales, who was a teenage marcher on the Edmund Pettus Bridge. And she was the one that sang that in that interview. I had never heard that song before. But she said they did training before they went out to march and saying, we are bringing love into the world. And here's a song we're going to sing. I think that's remarkable. And so if you are going out marching, somehow saying, I love everybody, not we're right and you're wrong, we're good and you're bad, then you probably are aiming for deep transformation. And so that's what I'm always looking for if I'm out somewhere doing stuff. When the Democratic National Committee was here, whatever year that was, before Obama was elected, we organized, we knew there were going to be a lot of protests, and so we organized a Mennonite hymn sing on the street. And so that was our witness at the time, was We stood there and sang 4-part hymns, and actually got quite a bit of attention because nobody else was doing anything like that. And I think a lot of people had never heard 4-part hymn singing even, so that was kind of fun. And we had a big banner that said Mennonites, an alternative to war, so that was another one. All right, so anyway, I think there are a lot of loving protests going on, and it's really good because the world needs more love, and there is more love somewhere. So, for Jesus, speaking in the Nazareth synagogue, it was a high-density, high-energy moment. This is like Connie standing up in Topeka and saying, I just want to tell you all that, ... I don't know what she would want to tell you all, but... And so you can feel, I mean, think about doing something like this in any of our own families, saying, this is what I'm about, especially if we're going to make a change, especially if we're on the cusp of something new. Ed Friedman used to say, a lot of times people will hand you a rope and go jump off the bridge and say, hold on to the rope. I'm not letting you go anywhere. Families have a way of tying us back to where we already were. But what if you're on the cusp of change and you declare to your family, think about how, well, I use the words a high density, high energy moment that is. That's really something. And wonderfully, Jesus kept it clear. He said what was on his heart, not what was wrong with other people, not even focusing so much on problems as on promise. Like here's the promise that God has for us. And he offered much more personal commitment than abstract analysis. You know, with my brain, I tend to go abstract. I could analyze stuff till the cows come home. When I was 20 years old, I was really good at it. But Jesus offers commitment more than analysis, and it gets you a lot farther. I think I lost several girlfriends over analysis, probably. Fortunately, I found one that could stand up to me. Oh, it was like, I mean, who's keeping track? You have to go do something in college, right? So this moment became, well, I don't know if you've had moments like this. When I'm wondering, it'd be maybe in our discussion hour we can talk about that, where we have had moments like this. And it's really hard. I mean, sometimes our encounters with our families or our close groups are just awful. They just, it doesn't feel good, even at the beginning or at the end. It's like, woo. Or you can have an uncle just say something to you off to the side, and it's kind of like, I was having such a good time until, you know, and that's that button pushing thing. But I did have a key moment like this once. It was a career-defining moment for me, and it was at the beginning of my public ministry, so to speak. This was back in 1987. You may remember in Purdue, Indiana, there was a vote at the Mennonite Conference to affirm that marriage is reserved for a man and a woman. I don't know if any of you knew this, or were any of you there at Purdue? Anyway, I went there. It was my first national conference as a young minister that I had gone to. I had gone to others before that, but now I was an actual minister. And so I was there in an official capacity. I actually roommated with Irvin Stutzman, who later became the guy for the denomination. So Irvin and I knew each other well. He thought I had a really large suitcase, which I don't know how that entered into it, but whatever. So after the Mennonite denominational vote, I went back and I was very troubled by it because I had friends in college who were gay. And I hadn't ever given it a lot of thought, but I also didn't think they were bad people. I certainly wouldn't want to keep them out of church just because they loved somebody. And I remember 2 women kind of came out at Heston and decided they were going to be a couple. I thought, okay, that's cool, they can do what they do, and no problem. And so now here we had this whole vote, and it was in the wake of people advocating for gay and lesbian inclusion at the Bethlehem conference, not that Bethlehem, the Bethlehem, Pennsylvania conference, which was in 1983. Was anybody there at that one? No, okay. So anyway, this was in answer to that in 87. So that was in 83. And you may remember if you looked at the history of the gay and lesbian movement, when was Stonewall? Was that 69? I think it was 69 when the Stonewall riots happened in New York City. And it was because the police were trying to arrest men basically because they were at a gay bar. And so then it kind of precipitated the whole movement. And so by 83, it had spilled over into the Mennonite world. And so that was the question before us. And like I said, I hadn't given it much thought. I studied a lot of feminism in seminary, but almost nothing about gay and lesbian matters. But I was shocked by the vote, and so a couple of months later, I got up in front of my new congregation where I had been for not even a year yet. And I said, this vote happened, but I have to tell you that as your pastor, I'm never going to have a conversation that says, because you love this person, you can't be a member of our congregation. I said, I'm not asking you to agree with me. I'm not asking for us to take a statement or, do anything. I'm just telling you, as your pastor, I'm not going to say that. I didn't know if I would have a job the next day. I truly didn't know if I would, because this was in 87. And I did end up having a job. Not everybody agreed with me, but everybody agreed that I should still be the pastor there. Nobody said I should leave. But here's the thing. Here's the effect of that. It created a place of freedom for me to work as a pastor because I had declared myself. And I had several friends who were pastors who said, I could never say anything like that. And it may have been true. In their setting, they may have absolutely lost their job really fast if they had said it. But I felt a lot of pain for them because then it felt like they were just hiding a key part of themselves that they could never say. And it just felt to me like it was really hard to be a pastor if you're just hiding something like that all the time, if you're just holding back. And I did have to learn how to filter myself, but that was more around the issue of telling jokes from the pulpit. I know, you've hardly seen that happen here, but I did have to filter myself. I'm not going to tell you which jokes I even told. No, I'm not. I'm tempted to, but I'm not going to. Yeah, the discussion time. Oh, yes. Anyway, I did have to get filters, but the thing that was so powerful was to just say, this is who I am among you. This is who I am. And I want to be your pastor, but I also am not going to hide this from you. And it really, for me, and I think for the congregation too, it released a lot of power in that congregation. That congregation grew like crazy. There was a whole bunch of young adults doing stuff, and we didn't know what we were doing, but we all grew, we were all having kids, and you remember how that was here. So I imagine that it's the same thing for Jesus. I mean, not that I'm like Jesus, I'm not saying that. And I didn't come away with any sense of superiority from that. I just came away with a sense of freedom and joy to do my work because I didn't have to hide that. I thought, oh, what a drag it would be just to always have to say, well, I couldn't say that. And I've heard so many ministers say that over the years, well, I could never say that from the pulpit. I think, well, think about how you would say it. Like, don't say it like, you brood of vipers, or any of that kind of thing. Say, this is what I believe. This is my wholehearted commitment among you all. I think that can be a really powerful, beautiful thing that leaders can do in whatever setting, teachers or anybody. I realized that I could really tell people who I was and survive it. And Jesus did too. I mean, he ultimately did not survive telling the people of Israel who he was, except then he did. And we'll talk more about the resurrection in a few weeks, but it was a very hard row to hoe for Jesus for a while, in many cases. But I think that released a lot of power. I always read this story and think this is the moment when Jesus' light just starts shining out into Galilee. It's like, this day you have heard this fulfilled in your presence. It's like, wow. And then he goes on and immediately does works of power. One of my favorite ones, which I've mentioned here before, is he heals Peter's mother-in-law. And then she immediately, as she feels better, she gets up and starts serving them. Well, isn't that nice? Cup of tea, That's what they would do in England. Well, okay. So let's see, what time is it? All right, we're doing all right. Ed Friedman calls that self-definition. And it's not self-centeredness. It's this sense of, this is who I am. This is how I enter the world. And not just, this is how I enter the world all by myself, but this is how I enter the world among us. And that is a thing. And I really tried to do that in Topeka when we were there with my family, because I know we have a lot of conservative evangelical cousins, for one thing. Some are more than others who don't know. And so, not in big ways, because I didn't want to make, like some big declaration at my aunt's funeral or anything like that. But just as we were meeting and so on, I tried to figure out how to be true to myself while also really listening to what is their truth. Because that's the other part of it, is it's not just about my revelation, it's my inviting their revelation too. It's inviting their best selves, the better angels of our nature, right? All of us need to have that show up. And that I have found is very difficult and very powerful, productive work to do. To think about, who am I among these people, and how can I invite that from them also? How can I support their voice from them, even when I don't necessarily agree with what they are saying, what they start saying. But I want to hear the best that they have to offer. So the last thing I want to say is, this leads me to a phrase that has been troubling me for the last year or two. And it's not troubling me in a way that it's a bad phrase. It's just been, I've just been chewing on it, subconsciously and consciously. And the phrase is speaking truth to power. Because we've been talking a lot about speaking truth to power. We talk a lot about speaking truth to power in politics, and so on, in protesting and that sort of thing. We're going to go on the street, speak truth to power, that kind of thing. Or write a letter, speaking truth to power. There are a lot of angles to this that I can't bring up this morning because I don't have time. I'm going to talk about it some more in a couple of weeks when we come back. But the thing that's so powerful about that phrase, and by the way, it arose in the Quaker movement from a thinker and writer named Bayard Rustin, who was trying to articulate what is the Quaker mode of public witness. And that was the phrase he came up with, was speaking truth to power. And that phrase has been very powerful for people. It was a big phrase in the anti-apartheid movement in South Africa. It's been used around the world in a bunch of different settings as a phrase of encouragement. The thing that I have been chewing on with it is this. In an era when we are so eager to be right, to be on the right side, and to tell everybody that, we have spiraled down, I think, into polarization and inability to listen and a love of debate. If I never hear another presidential debate in my life, I will be very happy. And I'm not trying to invite an early death here. I'm hoping to live to 90 and never hear another presidential debate, but I probably will. I can hardly stand watching them. All the fast talking, all the not listening, and so on. And have you lately tried to order anything in a restaurant and they say, would you like blah, 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 blah? They talk really fast. And I don't know if like young adults have started learning a new version of English, or I know I'm getting old. Anyway, there's this whole fast talking thing. I blame partly the culture of television, because television abhors silence. And you were talking about the power of silence. Television abhors silence, so they just talk, and talk over each other, and I think that bleeds into our culture. Anyway, in that kind of situation, if you start talking about speaking truth to power, it can sound like you think you have the truth, that you are somehow superior and better than the person you are talking to. And I think that becomes a big problem, because now it's just set up for somebody to win and somebody to lose. And I'm so tired of the Democrats talking about how we're going to win in 2026 and they're going to lose. I'm like, don't talk about that. Just talk about what you want to have happen. What's the good thing that we want to have happen in our nation? Whether it's Republican or Democrat or independent, which is what I am. I'm registered and independent. And whatever it is, let's just talk about the good thing that we want to happen, not whose team do we want to win. I mean, that's great with the Broncos, except poor Bo Nix, but you know, we'll see. I'm still looking for the second string miracle. That's my phrase for the second string miracle. But this idea that somebody needs to win and somebody needs to lose just keeps the wheels of polarization and of not listening just rolling and rolling and rolling, and it's exhausting. Just tell me what you believe in. Tell me what is full in your heart. Tell me what you love about our nation. Tell me what you commit yourself to doing. That would be amazing to hear from a politician, not how we're going to take back the House, so then we'll show them Republicans. Because then guess what them Republicans are going to do next time? They'll show them Democrats. And we've seen it back and forth and back and forth. It's just exhausting, and it's not productive, and it's really harming our culture, I think. And, you know, I'm more focused on the church than I am on politics. I'm not a politician or even a political analyst, but it makes a difference in so many people's lives how we operate our culture. It makes a difference in so many people's lives. And how can we bless each other? How can we bless each other? I will end on a note about God, because we came to church to hear about God, right? I don't think God declares truth all by him or herself. God's not like up in heaven, the 10 Commandments, okay, yeah. Oh, by the way, do you know the joke? Who is the worst sinner in the Bible? It's Moses, because he broke all 10 commandments at once. All right. Well, that's one. I didn't filter that joke out. I think that God declares truth by being connected to us. And truth is not something that God just keeps in his or her pocket. Like, okay, here's some more truth for you. Here's some truth. Hand it out. No, the truth, the great truth, is our loving relationship with God. That's an amazing thing. And the truth is our loving relationship with each other. And guess who else we have to love according to Jesus, or we're invited to love? Our enemies. And praying for those who persecute us. Praying for those who persecute us. Let's all do that 10 hours a week. How about that? I think it would make a huge difference, actually. But I don't know, I guess I should do it. I always say these things, but who's going to do 10 hours of prayer a week? Maybe we can start out with a half an hour. But the truth lies in that relationship. I can't just hand you the truth like I would hand you a lollipop. That's not, and I don't think God does that either. The truth is within our relationship. That's where we discover the greatest truth. And the greatest truth is that we are woven together in God's good creation. Every person on earth, every person in the history of the earth, every creature in the history of the earth. I've just been reading a very short history of life on earth. There have been a lot of creatures before us. Most of them are extinct. We still have a lot left. We are all woven together in this wonderful, beautiful creation. And it's inside of that where the truth lies. It's inside of those relationships where the truth lies. I don't have it. I can't just tell you, this is the truth. All right, you all need to believe that now. Brood of vipers. Oh. I shouldn't even say that because I'm misusing what John the Baptist said, but it always kind of cracks me up. Or like our grandfathers would say, you brood of vipers. So I think that is a powerful notion for today. The way that we are connected, the way we may represent ourselves, even in situations that are very difficult or close for us, like our families, like situations where we're with people who disagree with us. And we have to figure that out. We don't always say everything. You don't just have to go saying everything. But we have to figure out how to respond. And always to remember, I don't have the truth all by myself, and you're not completely wrong. So let's get into the relationship and see what love will teach us in the truth. Well, I'll be talking about this some more in a couple of weeks. And we can talk about this some more in our discussion hour. And now we're ready to sing again, right? Yes. Okay. So now we're going to sing a classic hymn. This isn't written by who I thought it was. It's based on Menno Simons. So there we go. This has a Mennonite text, and it's Johann Horn was the music. I thought this was somebody else, but that's very cool. So please stand as you are able, and let's sing We Are People of God's Peace. Oh, sorry, 797. I'm going to turn off my mic so I can sing. Sopranos sing out. I'm going to switch to bass. We are people of God's peace, as a new creation. Love unites and strengthens us at this celebration. Sons and daughters of the Lord, serving one another. A new covenant of peace binds us all together. We are heralds of God's peace for the new creation, and by grace the word of peace reaches every nation. Though
are children of God's peace in this new creation, spreading joy and happiness through God's great salvation. Hope we bring in spirit meet in our daily living, peace with everyone we seek, good for evil giving. We are servants of God's peace, of a new creation, choosing peace we faithfully serve with heart's devotion. Jesus Christ, the Prince of Peace, confidence will give us. Christ the Lord is our defense. Christ will never leave us. All right, thank you. That's a really beautiful hymn. You notice it has a little bit of that madrigal contrapuntal feeling there in that third line. Dun, 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 dun. Cool. All right. So, as we go from here, may you find that the Spirit is leading you in love. Take courage and rejoice. Our lives are full of these good promises. Amen.